In the end, all roads lead to me.
Rio is...
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Agatha All-Long Episode 7 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs, references, big reveals, confirming a lot of fan theories, including what's actually going on inside these different trials the witches road that they've been walking this whole time. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. And careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. But just starting at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments, and really big details. The episode title was Death Hand in Mind, which is a reference to the next line in the song, The Ballad of the Witches Road. Each of the titles of the episodes have been lines from the actual ballad itself. And it's a reference to Rio being the cosmic entity Death, which we'd believed for a long time now. Like, there'd been a couple stronger confirmations, but now they literally just said it out loud. Death Hand in Mind is also meant to be a reference to her relationship with Agatha, like they've literally been a couple for a while, which Agatha admits to at the end of the episode. Like, what can I say? I like the bad boys. Agatha's kink is literally hanging out with Death herself. Thanos off in the corner somewhere simping for Death, mad that he's not with her instead. I erased half of all life in the universe and still you won't be mine. If you haven't read the original comic book Infinity Gauntlet storyline, that's the whole reason why Thanos in the comics snapped half of all life to try and impress Death to win her hand. And it did not end up working. Death did not care about him. He got really pissed off. It did not go well.
To challenge them is to court death.
There was that brief line at the end of the first Avengers movie about courting Death, and that was meant to be as close as they ever got to the actual Thanos loves Death storyline in the original Infinity Gauntlet arc. But the other big reveal here in Rio being Death, the original Green Witch, is that she was never meant to be part of the Coven because they confirmed the Blackheart, the actual Green Witch that was part of the Coven, was meant to be Billy this whole time. The way the showrunner explained it, Rio this whole time has been more of a cosmic tourist, just hanging out with them, having fun while they're walking around this version of the Witch's Road. The whole reason that Rio came with them is because she wants the dead bodies of all the witches who are overdue, like they should have died a long time ago, meaning they've extended their welcome, essentially. She's also probably pretty interested in claiming Billy, too, because he was supposed to die when the Hex came down, and he is not dead. Early theory, that might be the next big type of trial they face in episode 8 before the finale, is they literally have to face Death herself. Because they just killed off the Salem 7 at the end of this episode, meaning that they're not meant to be the actual villain of the series. I think it's meant to be Rio herself, Death herself. She literally says in the episode, all roads lead to me, and they're walking the Witch's Road, so the Witch's Road leads to Death. This week's episode was more of a fairy tale pop culture parody of witches from famous movies and stories, playing on Lilia's hatred of the stereotypes about witches caused by movies and TV shows, with everybody playing different famous witches. Agatha is the Wicked Witch of the West, which she implies was actually based on her in real life, which was kind of funny. Lilia Glinda, the Good Witch, both from The Wizard of Oz, Billy is Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, and Jennifer is the Wicked Witch from Snow White. The opening scene starts with Lilia in the middle of a black void, which is her seeing her eventual death, which she talks about later, like I saw myself falling, setting up some major reveals. Like, for instance, they've been inside Billy's Hex this whole time underneath Westview, the abandoned subway tunnels that Miss Davis mentioned. That's why when they fall through the road, they're inside the subway tunnels beneath Westview, because they literally just walked through Agatha's basement into what seems like Billy's Hex. I think there have been a couple clear points during the past several episodes. Like, if you rewatch the episodes, thinking that they're inside Billy's Hex, a lot of the moments make more sense. And what's happening is that Billy has been transforming it on the fly with his reality warping powers, because he has the same powers as Scarlet Witch in the comics, without actually realizing what he's doing. Like, Billy thinks that he's on the actual Witch's Road, but like in the first episode when they make it to the road, notice that Agatha clocks that this isn't the actual Witch's Road. Like, she picks up the dirt like, this is interesting.
It's exactly how I pictured it.
Yes. Suits you.
She tells Billy this suits you. She makes a lot of references, like the detective Agatha that she typically is, even when she's not inside Scarlet Witch's Hex. Agatha seems like she clocks immediately that the Witch's Road that Billy thinks that they're on isn't the Witch's Road that she previously traveled. So that's why you see Lilia and Jennifer through the episode running around through the tunnels with the Salem 7 also running around through the tunnels underneath Westview. This whole time on the show, they haven't been in an alternate dimension. They've been inside Billy's hex, and it's just that Billy unconsciously used his power to create the hex inside these, like transforming the tunnels into his hex. It's the same concept with Scarlet Witch creating the hex in Westview. She didn't know that she was creating the hex, and she didn't know how she did it. She said she just felt this incredible swell of emotion and grief, and it just came out of her. Remember, way back in episode 2, when they traveled to the Witch's Road, the door would not open until Billy came screaming downstairs, super afraid of being killed by the Salem 7. And when the door opened, it glowed with blue energy, Billy's energy. So it's like Billy immediately created his hex then, and they literally just walked down into the tunnels, which were his hex.
So much like your mother.
Gosh, you really are a Maximoff. Otherwise, none of this would be nearly as dramatic.
Early theory, this is what Agatha meant when she said you're just like your mother, Scarlet Witch, and this wouldn't be so dramatic if you weren't a Maximoff. Like, the Wandavision series was very dramatic because Wanda developed this entire fake reality to just live out her grief, and now Billy is kind of doing a version of that with his hex underneath Westview. Just like his mother, Scarlet Witch, like mother, like son, real mama's boy. The other big piece of evidence that they've been walking around inside Billy's hex this whole time, which is inside the tunnels beneath Westview, is all the Easter eggs inside his bedroom correspond to things that they've encountered on the road, like all the Wizard of Oz figures, the castle, all the different figures that they turn into during this episode. All the different posters, the Wizard of Oz references in general, the idea that Dorothy basically travels to the land of Oz, but all the people in the land of Oz in that movie, which they also reference in this episode, are people from her real life on her farm. All the people in Billy's coven here are people that he encountered in real life, and things that are around his room here. So it's sort of like his own mind is unconsciously creating this hex and transforming reality based on all those things. You guys can let me know in the comments. I feel like there were a couple clear moments in this episode where there are references to this just being Billy's hex, and he's pushing reality, like changing things on the fly without realizing what he's doing, the same way that Scarlet Witch did inside the hex, changing things without really understanding what she was doing. But at the beginning of the episode, Agatha and Billy continue to walk the road. Very little time has gone by since the end of last week's episode. Agatha still covered in mud. Billy claims he's not trying to read her mind, but she's super insecure about it, their relationship at the moment, because they really hate her. He just tried to kill her, but couldn't get his power to work on command. Like I said, because I think this is all a function of his mind, and he's blocking his own power inside this hex of his that he's accidentally created. It's the same concept with Lilia blocking her own powers and her grandmother telling her, what happened to your power? Like it's been there this whole time. You've always been at 100% power levels. You just blocked yourself from accessing it, which is basically what's happening to Billy right now too. Billy still doesn't realize that this is a hex of his creation, which is why he can't fully control it the way that Scarlet Witch eventually could control the hex. Early theory, we'll probably learn about that in the last 2 episodes. But this whole joke about him reading Agatha's mind is also a callback to Wandavision when young Billy tried to read her mind and told her that he liked her because she was quiet on the inside, which is such a horror movie kind of thing to say, like the creepiest line ever from this little kid. Meaning that at that time during Wandavision and now in present day, Agatha is using her magic to block anyone from reading her mind. Notice he asked what happened to Rio here. A couple people later in the episode also reference what happened to her. Like, where is Rio? What's going on with Rio? I think now, confirming that she is Death, she's off busy claiming souls while they're talking right now. That's why she isn't here. Agatha also tries to brush past it too, like she doesn't want to answer what happened to Rio because she knows the truth. She references being his babysitter on WandaVision. Agatha being a babysitter is also meant to be a reference to her comic book origin being Franklin Richards' babysitter in the original Fantastic Four comics. When she was introduced, she was just referred to as the nanny, and then later they explained that her name was Agatha Harkness. Maybe someday they can cross her over with the Fantastic Four characters once they come to the MCU, so they can actually pay that off. She says she was Wanda's ex-best friend because she betrayed her and tried to take her power at the end of WandaVision. Then there's an interesting twist. Notice Billy says Scarlet Witch isn't his mom, it's Mrs. Kaplan who is his mom. Like, I have a mom already. That's because Billy's memories have mixed with William Kaplan's memories, they explained in last week's episode, and I think they're trying to say that he doesn't know where Billy begins and William ends, which they also question again during this episode, but stop short of answering the question because it's meant to be Lilia's trial. I think the idea is that Billy will eventually answer that question in episode 8 or episode 9, like the actual finale. He'll realize who he really has become. And I think the idea is they're trying to imply that he's become an amalgam of both of those personalities. So like he's not entirely just Billy Maximoff anymore and not entirely William Kaplan. He's going to become Billy Kaplan, aka a fusion of the characters from the comics, because in the comics, his name is Billy Kaplan. But I think the thing about him not considering Wanda his mom right now is also to explain why he doesn't care about finding Scarlet Witch on the road right now, only Tommy, but that's just for now, and that will obviously change in the future. Agatha repeats her similar reference from episode 1, which she tells him that Wanda is dead. Maybe? No. That's also them calling out the theory crafters too, like maybe she's dead, maybe she's not dead. I kind of saw a body, but who knows who else saw it. Basically leaving open the back door for how they're going to explain what happened to Scarlet Witch and how she's coming back for Avengers 5 Doomsday and Avengers 6 Secret Wars, because she is supposed to come back during those Avengers movies, and we might see some references to her or a cameo scene of some kind in the Vision TV series in the next couple years too. We'll see about that. I think they're mostly concerned with bringing Tommy back first, and then seeing Vision come back, like White Vision come back, the original version of Vision, then Scarlet Witch comes back. They really want to give Elizabeth Olsen a break from the MCU for a couple years so she can go off and do other TV series, other movies, then come back and do a whole bunch of stuff. They see the next trials a spooky fairy tale fantasy pop culture castle. Remember, Halloween also next week in real life too, which is why they're airing both episode 8 and episode 9 together, because they want the episodes to air right before Halloween. When she says the road is a fickle mistress, and Billy replies, I think that's more of clever foreshadowing that Billy is the road himself, like Billy created the road, his hex. And inside, he's kind of fickle right now with his emotions about Agatha and everything that's happening. And Agatha is just clocking that, like, you're being kind of fickle right now. When he questions whether Agatha has ever been on the Witch's Road or if she lied about that, like I said, I think the whole idea here is that Agatha did walk the Witch's Road, but the real Witch's Road, not the Witch's Road that Billy has created as his hex. This isn't meant to be the actual Witch's Road. So part of the idea is that Agatha's experience doesn't really help them because it's Billy that's rewriting the rules of reality on the fly, and he's being very fickle, as Agatha said earlier, so she can't actually predict how to help them trial to trial. You also notice as they continue to walk towards the castle, the road is yellow for Yellow Brick Road, aka Wizard of Oz, which we saw all those Easter eggs all over Billy's room. More evidence that this is just Billy's hex that he's using his mind to create without realizing it. You also notice the phases of the moon on the doors to each of the trials corresponds to the poster with the phases of the moon inside his room as well too. Like I said, very Wizard of Oz in real life, like you were there and you were there and you were there, like all the different things around his room make it seem like they're things that show up inside the Witch's Road without him thinking about it that way. Everybody now hoping that he doesn't wake up like he's waking up from a dream at the end of the episode. It was all a dream. That would be a pretty lousy payoff. They walk inside and immediately change into the pop culture witches. Agatha reveals that the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz was based on her in real life originally, meaning that L. Frank Baum met her at some point in the late 1800s, then went on to write the original Wizard of Oz story that the movies were all based on, which she seems really proud about. You also notice that her Wicked Witch outfit is highlighted with purple, her usual color. The tarot card table reads, your path winds out of time. Obviously, we know now that this is meant to be a reference to Lilia, but it takes them a while to figure out what this trial is all about, whose trial it actually is. Lilia's ability allows her to see across time, forwards and backwards, and she experiences time in a non-linear kind of way, very much like what we saw during Loki Season 1 and Loki Season 2, with him jumping around through time, backwards and forwards. There are a couple jokes here about both of them not really being great at reading tarot. Agatha knows way more than Billy does, but they just have a couple of jokes about them fumbling their way through it, trying to read each other's futures. He pulls the Chariot card. It's meant to reference overcoming conflicts and moving forward in a positive direction. One needs to keep going on through sheer hard work and commitment, and you will be victorious. The whole idea that they need to continue their quest down this witch's road, which, like I said, we think is Billy's hex. They said the actual rules of the trial, every time they do something incorrectly, a sword falls from the ceiling, and it seems like all the swords themselves are based on pop culture swords, so if you think you can identify which actual swords these are, let me know in the comments. The next card, the Seven of Swords, is meant to mean a bunch of different things. When the card is upright, it can indicate that someone's been dishonest, that you might have been resorting to underhanded methods to achieve your goals, manipulative behavior, but the way that Billy explained, it's meant to be reversed because he's the person here who's been more duplicitous, although technically Agatha's also been lying about what's been going on with Rio and Death. So both of them have been lying, but also kind of telling the truth at the same time. Agatha grabs the cards from him and also starts making more mistakes, causing more swords to fall, almost killing Billy. Then the stakes go up as the ceiling starts to be lowered while this is also happening too. And here's one of the next big confirmations I think that they're making that they're actually inside Billy's hex, because the minute that he says he wishes that Lilia were there, boom, immediately she shows up in the trial. Just like something similar would happen inside Wandavision in the Hex, where Scarlet Witch would just think of something and boom, snap her fingers and it would change. Then throughout the episode, they start jumping around in time to show Lilia's experience. Like, we're actually seeing this from Lilia's perspective, and because she experiences time in a non-linear way, we go backwards and forwards through the last couple of moments inside this actual episode. We see her and Jen both in the underground tunnels beneath the road walking, claiming that she was also falling in that black void of nothingness, which we learn was her foreseeing her own death. Jennifer claims that Lily has been having a bunch of her other visions, telling her all these things and then forgetting them promptly, which we find out later, like we get some of the gaps filled in later flashbacks. When she says they needed to walk the tunnels and look for shelving, those are the bookcases that allow them to get into the actual trial later. She references Rio again because the minute they got kicked off the road and she sort of came to, she stood up, she heard Rio speaking to her, "Oh, you know who I am, all roads lead to me," and seeing her grisly visage, like with the skeleton face that she saw when she saw her grandmother in episode 3. Jennifer also reveals that Lilia filled her in on everything that's happening with Billy being Scarlet Witch's son, this very heartfelt conversation they just had in the tunnels next to the subway car, the subway station. Like I said, they're basically trying to tell you that Billy created a hex inside the tunnels beneath Westview underneath Agatha or Ralph Boner's house. That's why they're walking around in the tunnels here and they see the subway station. I think the idea too is that the roots that glow here are meant to represent the boundaries of Billy's hex, the way that the red walls did during Wanda's hex in WandaVision. So when they're walking around here seeing the glowing roots on the side here, they're actually walking outside, like outside the barrier of Billy's hex. We get another payoff from one of her future visions in an earlier episode when Jennifer calls her Wispy, and they do a bunch of flashbacks to explain her doing all these future visions. Some of them have not been paid off yet, but they do a quick recap just to remind you, like, oh, we're going to be paying all these off really soon. Then she starts seeing visions of her grandmother back in Sicily when she was a little girl. This is the same grandmother that we saw Rio claiming in episode 3. And apparently she's jumped back into the past when her grandmother was teaching her for the first time how to read tea leaves. In the way they explain it, this is literally her time traveling, but it's just her consciousness traveling across time. It's not meant to be like Loki, where Loki's body was traveling across time. But if it wasn't clear why she's talking to her grandma or what's going on during this scene, this is her literally traveling hundreds of years into the past, back when her grandmother was still alive and when she was a little girl. It's just her older mind transported back into her younger body. And because her grandmother also had the same ability in all the women in her family line, her ancestors, she says that she must be visiting, which is what her grandmother calls it when they're jumping across time, meaning that her grandmother had done this before too at some point. They said it the whole idea that her grandmother has to eventually give her the pep talk and tell her that the power was always within, like you never lost your ability, you just forgot about it, like you just chose not to use it. And the idea that she must have a witch must have a coven, which is also meant to be a callback that the coven has to be there to help solve each of the different trials. They have to work together to solve the trials. No one person can do it by themselves. Which I think is also foreshadowing for how the finale goes down too. Like, Billy won't be able to complete things or beat death on his own. It'll take everyone working together to do it. Also, the idea is that he'll be forced to trust Agatha again, which he doesn't want to do right now. When they're back in the tunnels running from the Salem 7, Lilia starts to think that she's been getting visions more and more frequently because she's close to her death, or because she's close to the end of the road, but I think it's meant to be one and the same thing. Like, she's getting the visions again because her power is coming back, but also because she's about to die. She jumps forward in time again to the actual trial, confronting Billy, pissed off at him for everything that's happened and hiding the fact that he is really Scarlet Witch's son, and he starts reading her mind. Love the way they have the conversation without her having to speak, and she's mad that Billy didn't use his power to save Alice. Like I said, because this is all a creation of Billy, like because they're walking around inside Billy's hex and he can warp reality, maybe that's a way to explain how the other witches who we thought died can actually come back. Like I said, whole Wizard of Oz kind of concept here, like they travel to the land of Oz, but in the Wizard of Oz story, Dorothy wakes back up in reality, and all the people that she thought either died or befell terrible fates are there around her bed when she comes back to reality. So early theory, everybody that you think is dead will actually be alive at the end of the series. Lilia starts to remember the past from before she made the sigil and starts explaining things like, this is why I did all this stuff. She reveals that night at the bar mitzvah, she saw everything that was going to happen to him and understood, like everything from the car wreck to young Billy Maximoff taking over his body, and knew that it was Scarlet Witch's son entering his body and what he would turn into, the power he would come into. She says the sigil was meant to prevent other powers, like other witches, like the Salem 7, even Death, Rio, for example, from finding him and challenging him before he was ready to face all of them on his own. You also notice this, kind of a bad thing, the sigil prevented Scarlet Witch herself from sensing Billy one town over, basically which would have negated the entire plot of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. You get to see Lilia saying to him, oops, sorry, my bad, dude. When she talks to her grandmother again in another flashback, she mentions her first coven, like basically the coven that her grandmother had, her family, essentially. She explains they all died in a really, really bad fever during that period in history, just because medicine wasn't that good back then. Her grandmother basically tells her the whole secret here is to just go with the flow, basically. There is no controlling her power. It's just for her to accept things as they happen, like see things as they happen and divine meaning from them. Basically to accept things that will come without being able to control them, which is her accepting that she's going to die, which is why she's not afraid to die at the end when she sacrifices herself to stop the Salem 7. Like, oh, this is supposed to happen. She goes back to the tunnels beneath Westview and then finds Billy's journal, which she eventually gives back to him. That will probably be important for the last couple of episodes, why she would have given it to him. When she peeps inside the walls past the bookcase to the trial, I feel like this is a Christopher Nolan Interstellar reference when he was traveling through time, looking through the past to all the bookcases. And just as Billy wishes for Lilia again, she and Jennifer fall through the bookcase door. Like I said, more evidence that Billy is controlling reality inside here in his hex, the way that Wanda was inside her hex. And I think the idea is that Agatha knows that, but for some reason she hasn't revealed that to Billy, probably because she doesn't want Billy turning on her, like she's wary about what he might do if he fully came into his power and recognized that he had control of everything around him, godlike inside this hex. Like he's basically God inside this hex. My early theory, though, is that doesn't extend to Rio as Death, the cosmic entity. She's probably not subject to what happens inside this hex. So, like, if Billy tried to fight her inside this, he wouldn't be able to kill her. But you remember the big twist at the end of WandaVision? The twist is that she put sigils inside her hex, and the idea is that when she put the sigils up, she basically became goddess inside here and could do anything she wanted. Like her quote at the end of WandaVision was, "The witch who places the sigils writes the rules," meaning that she controls all of reality like a god inside her hex here. It's the same probably for Billy too, but he just doesn't realize it yet. There are a couple more queer jokes when Agatha refers to Billy as she when they're accusing each other for who messed up the tarot. Billy also makes another joke like that when he says he's a queer ent. Lily then makes another mistake trying to read Billy's tarot until she realizes that it's hers that she should be reading, her own future she should be reading. She pulls the Magician card, which is a reference to him being the Scarlet Witch's son, having god-tier magic. When she says he has the ability to turn all of his goals into reality, I think this is meant to be another confirmation that he accidentally created his own hex, which is his version of the Witch's Road, warped reality, one of his comic book powers like Scarlet Witch, and he controls reality in here. He can turn his goals, his ideas, into reality by warping reality. The thing that's missing for him, the Sun card, represents his reunion with Tommy, his brother that he's currently looking for. Lilia then goes back to talk to her grandmother again, and when she says death comes for us all, it's a reference to her accepting her own death eventually, but also the big reveal on Rio being the cosmic entity Mistress Death. She literally tells Lilia after this, all roads lead to me, meaning that everyone will eventually die and have to meet her. But it's also her grandmother basically telling her to just accept it because dying isn't the end, it's the beginning. Like they explained that during the Moon Knight series, is that death in the MCU just represents your consciousness traveling to an alternate plane of existence, like an alternate dimension. So it's meant to be the end of one journey and the beginning of another, which is why at the end of this episode, her grandmother tells her in death, like they're dead now, this isn't her in the past, it's her telling her, let's begin, because it's the beginning of her next journey in this state of existence. They said at the Salem 7 chasing them through the tunnels, then she jumps back into the trial, realizing that she should be reading her future, pulls the Three of Pentacles, which is a reference to her having the new coven, working together to solve the trials, the Knight of Wands, which is a reference to Alice, the High Priestess, a reference to Jen. The Three of Swords is a reference to Agatha. You could also call it a reference to her triple goddess of her brooch, the Maiden Mother in Crone. In the Tower Reversed is a callback to Billy's bar mitzvah, representing him in his transformation from Billy Maximoff into Billy Kaplan, or Billy and William's consciousness sort of fusing and then becoming a single person. Then as she realizes that Rio is the cosmic entity Death, she pulls the Death card, and they do a bunch more flashbacks to confirm that too. Notice how Agatha yoinks the card before Lilia can say the full phrase out loud so the other witches can't hear, but she later repeats it so everybody understands that, like everyone's on the same page. She calls Death the original Green Witch, which is also meant to be a reference to what Rio told them when she showed up on the road, like, I am the Green Witch, like capital the, as in the original one. Love that their exit in the trial is through the Iron Maiden. Like all these different exits to the trials are these grisly types of pop culture deaths, like them crawling through the oven during episode 3 from Hansel and Gretel. Then she tells Agatha her future to duck when someone calls her a coward in next week's episode probably, gives Billy his journal back, that'll probably come in handy the last couple of episodes, so keep your eye on that, then winds up sacrificing herself to stop the Salem 7, and I think they are trying to tell you that they died in this episode, so no more Salem 7 in next week's episode, clearing the path for Death to be like the big challenge that they have to face. There are a couple other bits of lore that she reveals too, like, did you know what happens to a trial after you complete it? Bad things happen as she flips the card, which is also meant to be a reference to the Tower Reversed that she said during episode 6. Gravity reverses and the Salem 7 are impaled on the roof, which is now the floor, and she also winds up dying too when she eventually lets go. She eventually loses her grasp and falls, referencing the vision she had of herself falling through that black void. But I also think what's happening here too, like when the room is breaking down, this is inside Billy's hex. So I think the idea is that just like inside WandaVision, inside Wanda's hex, when she didn't need things, they would basically just break down. So I think what's going on here is that because Billy unconsciously doesn't need this part of his hex anymore, it's just slowly breaking down. So even though you might be bummed out that it seems like Lilia is dead, it's always possible, like maybe she survives the end of this series, but the way they play that ending with her getting that resolution with her grandmother, it really does make it seem like she's actually permadead. Then over the actual end credits, they play Jim Croce's Save Time in a Bottle, because that's Lilia's ability, basically, seeing across time. The really big thing next week, like I said, is them confronting Rio, aka confronting Death. Because, like I said, I think Rio wanted all the dead bodies of the witches. She wanted to claim them because they were past their due. But also, who would Rio want if not Billy, because he was supposed to die when the hex came down, and he broke the rules, according to Agatha. Like she said, big deal, you broke the rules, who cares? You survived. Rio probably wants to claim his soul. So early theory right now is Agatha will try to sacrifice herself to save Billy. Everybody post all your predictions in the comments below, and if there's any other Easter eggs or references from this episode that I didn't talk about in the video, write them below in the comments. Like, do you actually think that Billy accidentally created his own version of a hex, and that's what they're walking down, not the actual real Witch's Road? What I'll do is I'll post my episode 8 and episode 9 trailer video tomorrow, also because Venom: The Last Dance is out this week. Like, I just posted my review video for that. I'll link it at the end of this, but I'll be doing a post-credit scene video, full Easter eggs breakdown for that movie. That'll be up in the next couple days as the movie comes out, so be sure to go see that as soon as possible. Everybody click here for that post-credit scene video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for my Agatha All Along episode 8 and episode 9 video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.